All right, we're going to North Korea now, and North Korea is talking tough. It has threatened a nuclear strike against the U.S. in response to any aggression after the latest missile test by North Korea last week. The United States sent an aircraft carrier group towards the Korean peninsula in a show of force as concerns mount at the Pentagon over North Korea's advancing weapons program.
This latest move comes some days after President Donald Trump pressed his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping during a visit in Florida to do more to curb North Korea's nuclear ambitions.
We're now joined on Skype by a lecturer of the Department of Political Science, Lagos State University, Sylvester Odion. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Trump, yes, indeed. Donald Trump, U.S. President, in discussing with Xi Jinping of China, says if China is not going to check North Korea, then we will go it alone. Is it advisable for the U.S. to go about this in a unilateral action against Kim Jong-un?
Well, I think it would be suicidal for the U.S. to attempt to go it alone, because the history of the Korean Peninsula is a very fresh one. As you know very well, the war in the Korean War did not end in a formal peace treaty. It ended in a truce. And if you follow the Korean War in the 50s, the Americans had to beat a retreat. And they had to find a way out of it, and a truce was struck, during that crisis. Now, to escalate another crisis within the Korean Peninsula without the backing of the United Nations and the U.S. going it alone, of course, usually with its own willing allies, because China cannot entertain U.S. forces on its border. And that was the whole basis of Chinese intervention in the Korean War. Once the American forces crossed the Yalu River, the Chinese had to pour in thousands of troops into that crisis. So I think that America is being delusional to think of going into North Korea alone.
But the UN hasn't done much, really. They seem a bit uninterested in what is going on right now. They've tried sanctions with North Korea. That has not worked. They've tried the carrot and stick approach. That does not work. So perhaps some bullish action from Trump would make some impact.
Well, I think the point to make is that when you look at the nuclear proliferation process, many countries have had it without the U.S., batting an eyelid. Israel has not formally declared it has nuclear forces, but they do have. Pakistan has it. And so there has always been this moral question. What right does one country has to say that they alone can possess nuclear weapons and not the other? Well, the United States, which is a major ally of South Korea, is arming South Korea on a daily basis. All the latest what they call it, a defense shield, missile defense shield are being placed in Korea, and on a daily basis, military exercises are being carried out. And so North Korea feels threatened. And usually in international law, every country has the right to self-defense. That is one point that we cannot rule out.
Yes. So what are the options really, whether for the U.S. in checking North Korea's naughtiness or the UN actually coming in? Economic sanctions haven't worked, just like we stated. Military measures, would that be the way out?
No, I don't think military solution often doesn't solve any problem. If you look at the history of intervention in contemporary times, we can see the chaos in Iraq. We can see the chaos in Libya. So intervention has not worked, and they have done it, pursuing clearly self-interest. So in the case of Korea, I think we should encourage the two-way conversation between the two Koreans, South Korea and North Korea. They have interface at some point. We should encourage that. We should support, North Korea economically and all of that, so that we can have some incentives for them not to pursue their nuclear ambition. But saber rattling on the other side of course, will encourage the leadership in Pyongyang to pursue its nuclear ambition.
In early April, Kim Jong-un tested a liquid-fueled Scud missile, which only went halfway through its journey. What is North Korea trying to do? Trying to pull Donald Trump out? Is it trying to test the resolve of not only Donald Trump, but maybe the rest of the international community?
Intimidate South Korea. That's always been the case.
Indeed. Okay, that's what we're discussing this morning. And Sylvester Odion is talking to us via Skype right here in Lagos. But at this point, let's bring in Foladele. I'm sure she has something from what the people are saying
she
on
does.
social media.
A lot of people are talking online. Let's find out what some people are saying. Nick Oger says North Korea is warning the U.S. about catastrophic consequences after the U.S. deployed a Navy strike fleet. Okay. Mike P. Williams says, this is insane. The president is openly discussing war tactics and goading countries with nuclear weapons. Narendra Singh says, yeah, any small news, leftists cry out World War III as if it's a piece of cake to start one. Holly the Resistance says, hashtag Trump Russia is the real story. Sending ships towards North Korea isn't distracting us. Laura Malin says, North Korea to U.S., we're ready for war. This is the tyrant on CNN this morning. We need help to save us from the White House monster. Wow. Always Almost says, it's got me terrified, the current world situation, as the prospects of a World War III is so scary with what weapons are available now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, Sylvester, I have a quote here, and let me just really take it quick. Let me take it really quickly. It says, U.S. had moved from a policy of strategic patience under the Obama administration, which basically meant doing nothing, to doing something. So a lot of people have said that one of the things that President Trump is trying to do is basically counter everything that the Obama administration did. What do you make of this? Do you agree? Do you not?
Well, I think it's not a question about whether a yes or no answer. You have to look at the situation in Korea carefully well. Obama administration, Obama came into power with the hope that he was going to, demilitarize U.S. forces in terms of intervention across, the globe. And he largely stuck to that, so that is part of the policy. In terms of Trump coming to undo everything, everybody recognizes one fact about Korea, that one of the most strategic allies to North Korea is China. And what Obama tried to do was to engage China in terms of dealing with the situation and persuading the regime in Pyongyang not to, further its nuclear ambition. And so that for me was the right thing to do. But let me also make one point. International actors, they are rational actors. And I don't think that even Trump's advisors will allow America to commit suicide in North Korea. I'm not sure they will allow the Americans to commit suicide in North Korea, because it's a very volatile situation. At the end of the day, I see, of course, the powers coming to the table to discuss the best way to engage with North Korea.
Okay, all right. Oh, a couple of issues, really. You were talking about bringing the two Koreas on the table, South and North. The world seemed to be on the side of the South Korea, perhaps maybe because it's not a level playing field. And even China, that is a North Korea ally, now has some sanction imposed on North Korea. So how do we bridge the divide?
Well, I think essentially China is trying to be seen not to be handling with the issue with kid gloves. That's basically what China is doing. And I think that whether other countries line up on the side of South Korea or not, the Koreans are brothers and sisters, and they recognize that fact. And that is why there has been an engagement between the two countries. Don't forget that within their border there's an economic zone where North Koreans go to work with South Koreans. And so they have the key, the two leadership, have the key to re-engaging themselves in dialogue.
All right,
Thank you.
Fola.
Thank you.
Now, Sylvester, Kim Jong-un plans to test an ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile, somewhere around April the 15th, on the birthday, of course, of the founding father of North Korea.
Yes.
What should the rest of the world be doing in order not to escalate or bring about a nuclear race that might just annihilate the rest of humanity?
Well, everybody's aware of the danger that nuclear weapons pose to the entire human race. But of course, those who have led the race are the superpowers who are coming around to say other countries should not, engage in the same arm race. So that is the moral dilemma. That is the moral dilemma. And they have used their military might when it pleases them to do so. And so that is the issue. So countries naturally want to protect their national interests. And what countries do is to protect themselves by arming for self-defense. Others go into alliances with other powerful countries for protection. And so Korean, being isolated, in the peninsula, has no choice than to, of course, arm itself, to the point of being capable of, self-defense, and also offering some deterrence to stronger powers.
All right. People have said that even what is going on in North Korea, talking about the weapon, that they don't really have that nuclear weapon, talking about even attacking South Korea now, that they need warheads, and that they don't have. Even though North Korea came out and said, okay, they have a miniaturized one, but that it's just a bluff, really. Do you agree?
Well, they will always tell you that it's a bluff. If you go back to the Korean War, North Korea took over South Korea almost in 1 week of fighting. So these are historical facts. I don't have any proof as to the level of their armament, but I think that all of it will not be bluffing. They can engage South Korea in a serious conventional war, aside other leather forces being employed in the battle.
But are you curious that every country that the United States or even the global community has put some kind of economic sanctions or military sanctions on has gone in and come out really looking very strong? Iran, for example, Russia, and of course now you have North Korea and so many other countries. What is playing out here? Would one then say that this isolation is actually in the interest of those countries that are, put in isolation?
Well, it depends, but you can't say, even though Iran tried to weather the economic sanction, but it didn't quite find it easy. There were economic crises in that country. There were economic crises. But of course, it has the national pride. It has to defend its national security and all of that. But of course, when the group of six or so, were able to strike a deal in Iran, and you saw Iran was happy. And they had to, of course, immediately increase their oil quota in the global market to recoup what they lost during the sanction period. And so they felt it. It isn't that they didn't feel it, but the real issue is to what extent can sanction address some of the fundamental issues. Because if a country feels threatened and there is no assurance that it will not be attacked, then the country has no option than to defend itself.
All right, let's look at Donald Trump and George Bush, the last Republican president before Donald Trump, in terms of tactics and engagement. People have said George Bush is still a little more diplomatic than the Donald Trump that we have today. So perhaps now the World War III that people are forecasting may just come sooner than we want it to come.
Well, like I said before, most of these world leaders, they are rational actors. They understand the level of destruction that nuclear weapons can wreak on the entire world. And I'm not sure anybody will want to blink first when it comes to the use of nuclear weapons. And so they are extremely going to be very careful. Their policy advisors are going to advise them against it. Don't forget that in the Korean War, when General MacArthur was asking permission to use nuclear weapons, he was decommissioned almost immediately. And so they are rational actors. They are not likely to allow a situation that will deteriorate into a third world war.
Okay, we hope it doesn't get to that. But in the midst of all of this, the U.S. is moving towards the Korean Peninsula, and North Korea is threatening, don't come close, otherwise we will strike. Of course, it's the 6th or so nuclear test that North Korea has carried out. What should the U.S. be doing now? Should it hold back or still prove that it has the power to take out North Korea?
Well, we can only wish U.S. good luck. But I think that what I can tell you is that much of the deployment in the peninsula, the U.S. have been doing that for several years now, since the war ended in a truce. The U.S. has been engaging in saber rattling, military exercise with South Korea, and all of that. Each time they did that, North Korea was always miffed, and therefore its own method of retaliation was always to, test one weapon or the other. And we have seen North Korea continue to follow that beating track in terms of response, to U.S. and South Korean, saber rattling in the peninsula.
All right, the U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis actually came out and said this whole thing is just a prudent move coming from the U.S. They perhaps see what we don't see. But talking about prudency, how prudent is that with the American economy as we speak?
Well, Obama, again, when Obama administration came into power, many analysts said Obama was doing a kind of holding charge, for the American state. Obama came in at a time American reputation was hurting, and it was an economic crisis. And so Obama came and turned around that economic crisis. So the Republicans, with their ties to the military-industrial complex, if they want to plunge the U.S. into another round of economic crisis, good luck to them. But I don't see the prudence that the defense secretary is talking about in their move in Korea.
Okay, well, let's hope it's not a case of the Republicans, making a mess of everything, and the Democrats have to come and clean up after them.
And when they cash in on that, they would.
All right, Sylvester Odion, thank you so much for joining us and your thoughts, of course, this morning on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you.